Gentlemen, we live in a world where the pressure to conform to societal norms can weigh heavily on us. Many people, especially men, are told that being in a relationship is the ultimate form of success. Yet, there's a timeless truth that the Stoic philosophy teaches us: the longer a man is single, the more he has the opportunity to build his character, master his emotions, and cultivate an inner strength that few can comprehend. Now, I'm not here to preach isolation or convince you that being in a relationship is inherently negative. What I'm speaking about is the power of solitude, the value of time spent mastering oneself before seeking someone else to share that life with. If we look at Stoic philosophy, we can understand why the longer a man is single, the more he gains. The Stoics were clear about one thing: happiness comes from within. It is not found in external validation, fleeting pleasures, or romantic entanglements. It's found in mastering yourself, becoming unshakable, and standing firm in your own values. It is during these moments of solitude that a man has the ability to turn inward and realize his true potential. The longer a man is single, the more time he has to develop the discipline of his mind, the more opportunity he has to embrace challenges, and the more space he has to grow into his best self. In these moments, he learns how to make decisions based on his core principles rather than external pressures. He understands that nothing and no one should dictate his peace of mind. Remember, the Stoic spirit teaches that a man who has mastered himself does not need external validation to feel complete. He finds his purpose not in others, but in his ability to walk through the world with calm resolve and an unwavering sense of direction. So, gentlemen, understand this: being single is not a curse, it is a powerful, transformative journey. The longer you spend on this journey, the more you will grow. The more you grow, the more you become the kind of man who is ready to welcome love, not out of need, but out of a place of strength and wisdom. Solitude is often misunderstood in our modern world, especially when it comes to men. There is a pervasive belief that being alone is a sign of failure or something to be avoided at all costs. Society pushes us toward constant connection, urging us to be in relationships, always surrounded by friends or family, or chasing the next fleeting experience to fill the empty spaces in our lives. But the truth is, solitude holds a unique power, a power that can shape a man's character in ways that no external relationship or validation ever could. When a man is alone, he faces his own thoughts, his own doubts, and his own struggles without the distractions that typically surround him. In these quiet moments, he has the opportunity to reflect, not just on his past but on who he is becoming. This self-reflection is a crucial component of character building. Solitude forces a man to confront his weaknesses and shortcomings, to acknowledge his fears, and to understand his desires in a way that is impossible when he is constantly seeking external validation or approval. In this solitude, he learns who he truly is, not the man others expect him to be, but the man he has the potential to become. This process of self-discovery is essential because it gives a man the space to build a sense of self-reliance and emotional independence. In a world where many seek external solutions to their inner turmoil, solitude teaches a man that true strength comes from within. It allows him to develop the emotional fortitude needed to weather life's inevitable storms without relying on others for comfort. He learns to sit with discomfort, to embrace moments of uncertainty, and to find peace in the absence of distractions. This self-reliance fosters a deep sense of confidence that is grounded in his own capabilities rather than in the opinions or needs of others. Through solitude, a man also gains clarity. In the absence of the noise of social obligations, the pressure of relationships, or the demands of others, he can finally hear his own voice. He can contemplate what he truly wants from life, not what society tells him he should want. This clarity of purpose becomes the foundation of his actions. Without this time to reflect, a man might drift through life, swayed by the opinions and expectations of others. But in solitude, he learns to make decisions based on his own values and desires, not the whims of the world around him. Moreover, solitude teaches patience. In a fast-paced world where everything is instantaneous, from communication to gratification, it's easy to lose sight of the slow, deliberate process of growth. But solitude forces a man to slow down, to be patient with himself, and to understand that character isn't built overnight. It is forged in the quiet moments when no one is watching, when he is working on becoming better in the smallest ways. Whether it's waking up early to exercise, choosing to read over scrolling through social media, or staying disciplined in his work even when there's no one around to cheer him on, solitude allows him to practice these habits, to cultivate a life of purpose and intention. In solitude, a man also learns to deal with his emotions without relying on others to provide validation or comfort. Often, when we are surrounded by people, we tend to mask our true feelings or lean on others to help us navigate difficult emotions. But when alone, a man is forced to confront his emotions head-on. He learns to understand why he feels the way he does and how to regulate those emotions in a healthy way. Whether it's frustration, sadness, or anger, solitude teaches a man how to process and manage these feelings without external influence. He learns that emotions, while powerful, do not have to control him. Through this process, he becomes more emotionally intelligent, developing the ability to respond thoughtfully to life's challenges rather than reacting impulsively. Solitude is not a punishment. It is a crucible in which a man can forge his character. By embracing solitude, he can transform his weaknesses into strengths, his doubts into confidence, and his emotional turbulence into a source of inner peace. It is in these quiet, solitary moments that a man builds the foundation for a life of purpose, strength, and self-mastery, qualities that will not only serve him but also those he encounters on his journey. Happiness is one of the most sought-after experiences in life, yet it often seems elusive, fleeting, and dependent on external circumstances. In modern society, we are bombarded with the message that happiness is tied to possessions, achievements, relationships, or the approval of others. From advertisements to social media, there is a constant push to acquire more or be more in order to find fulfillment. But the ancient philosophy of Stoicism offers a radically different view, one that teaches us that happiness is not something we acquire or attain from the outside world, it is something that arises from within. The Stoics understood that the key to lasting happiness is not in external conditions but in the way we perceive and respond to life. They believed that external events are largely beyond our control, and therefore, we cannot rely on them to provide true contentment. Instead, happiness comes from the way we cultivate our inner state, the way we choose to think, and the way we manage our emotions. When a man learns to control his reactions and to align his life with his values, he can find peace and joy regardless of the circumstances around him. This inner happiness is built upon self-discipline, mental clarity, and emotional resilience. When a man understands that his happiness is not dependent on the actions of others or the success of his endeavors, he frees himself from the constant chase for validation. He learns to appreciate the present moment, to find contentment in simple pleasures, and to be at peace with the unfolding of life. Instead of seeking happiness in the approval of others or in external rewards, he finds it within himself by focusing on what he can control, his actions, thoughts, and responses. For instance, when faced with a difficult situation, a Stoic man does not look for someone or something to blame. Instead, he accepts that adversity is a part of life and views it as an opportunity to practice virtue, whether it's patience, courage, or wisdom. He chooses to focus on how he can respond with integrity, rather than being overwhelmed by negative emotions or seeking to change the situation in ways he cannot control. In this way, he cultivates a sense of peace that does not depend on the whims of fortune but on his ability to maintain equanimity regardless of external events. The Stoic principle of focusing on what we can control extends to our emotions as well. We are often taught that emotions are something that happen to us, that we have little power over how we feel. Yet, the Stoics believed that we have the power to choose our responses to our emotions. While we cannot always control the initial reaction, whether it's anger, fear, or sadness, we can control how we allow those emotions to influence our actions. By becoming aware of our emotional triggers and practicing mindfulness, a man can learn to navigate life's ups and downs with greater balance, avoiding the extremes of impulsive reactions or emotional overwhelm. In this sense, happiness is not the absence of negative emotions, but the ability to respond to them in a way that maintains inner calm. Another critical aspect of internal happiness is aligning one's life with their core values. The Stoics believed that living in accordance with nature and reason was the path to a fulfilled life. This means that true happiness comes from living a life of virtue, integrity, and purpose, not from the fleeting pleasures that come from external sources. A man who lives according to his values, whether it's honesty, hard work, or kindness, experiences a deep sense of satisfaction because he knows he is acting in alignment with who he truly is. This alignment brings an internal peace that is not dependent on external validation or changing circumstances. Furthermore, happiness from within allows for greater resilience in the face of life's challenges. When a man's happiness is rooted in external circumstances, he is at the mercy of those circumstances. Success brings joy, but failure brings despair. Relationships provide joy, but their absence or disintegration causes pain. However, when happiness is cultivated within, a man can endure the inevitable trials of life without losing his sense of peace. He remains anchored in the knowledge that his happiness is not contingent on what happens around him, but on how he chooses to respond to life's challenges. In the end, happiness that comes from within is far more stable and enduring than the fleeting, external sources of joy that many chase after. By focusing on what is within our control, our thoughts, actions, and attitudes, we can create a foundation of inner peace and contentment that remains unshaken, no matter what life throws our way. This is the essence of Stoic happiness, a state of being that is not dependent on circumstances but on our ability to find contentment and peace within ourselves. The idea of self-improvement is a deeply ingrained value, one that is constantly promoted in the world around us. In many ways, society encourages us to strive for success, personal development, and growth. However, the path to self-improvement is not always as straightforward or easy as it may seem. The Stoic philosophy, which encourages self-reflection and personal responsibility, offers a perspective that highlights the importance of using solitude, time, and personal reflection as opportunities to truly improve oneself. When a man embraces the opportunity for self-improvement, he begins to reshape not only his character but also his entire life. One of the core teachings of Stoicism is that improvement is an ongoing process, not a destination. The Stoics believed that a man should always be striving to become the best version of himself, but they also understood that this process takes time and effort. The journey of self-improvement is not about reaching some final point of perfection, rather, it's about continuously refining one's actions, thoughts, and values. When a man is single, he is often given the rare gift of time and space to focus on this process without the distractions or external demands that relationships can sometimes bring. During periods of solitude, a man has the opportunity to examine his own habits, decisions, and mindset. In the absence of outside influence, he can observe his patterns of behavior and identify areas for improvement. The Stoics were particularly keen on developing self-awareness as the first step towards self-improvement. A man who is truly self-aware knows not only his strengths but also his weaknesses. He is unafraid to look at his shortcomings and address them head-on. This level of honesty and introspection can be difficult but is ultimately the most crucial step in growing as an individual. Self-improvement also involves cultivating discipline. The Stoic practice of self-control is not just about resisting temptation, but about training the mind to focus on what truly matters. For a man who is single, this means that he can channel his energy into building habits and routines that serve his greater goals. Whether it's adopting a daily exercise regimen, learning new skills, or dedicating time to study and self-education, a man can use his time to develop discipline in ways that make him stronger, more capable, and more confident. These small, consistent efforts in self-improvement lead to a cumulative growth that may not be immediately visible but results in profound changes over time. Another critical aspect of self-improvement is the ability to embrace discomfort and challenge. The Stoics believed that challenges are essential for personal growth. A man who seeks to improve himself does not shy away from difficult situations but faces them with courage and resilience. Being single often means facing loneliness or moments of uncertainty. Rather than viewing these experiences as negative, a Stoic would see them as valuable opportunities to build mental and emotional strength. Whether it's dealing with setbacks, enduring discomfort, or learning to thrive in solitude, these challenges provide valuable lessons that sharpen a man's character and prepare him for greater success in all areas of life. In addition to facing challenges, self-improvement requires a deep sense of humility and a willingness to learn. A man who is committed to growth understands that there is always more to learn, no matter how much knowledge or experience he may already have. This mindset encourages continuous self-education, whether it's through reading, seeking feedback, or learning from past mistakes. A single man has the time to immerse himself in books, philosophies, or skills that interest him without the competing demands of a relationship. He can pursue personal growth without distraction, committing himself fully to improving his mind, body, and spirit. Furthermore, self-improvement often involves recalibrating one's values and priorities. The longer a man is single, the more time he has to reflect on what truly matters to him. He can step back from the noise of the world and evaluate whether his actions align with his core principles. The Stoics believed in the importance of living in accordance with nature, which means living authentically and in harmony with one's true self. When a man spends time cultivating his own values, he not only becomes more focused on his personal growth but also more aligned with his purpose and direction in life. This clarity of purpose is essential for self-improvement, as it acts as a compass, guiding his actions and decisions in a way that is consistent with his higher goals. The pursuit of self-improvement is not an easy path, but it is one that is profoundly rewarding. By embracing the opportunity to grow, a man who is single can transform his life from one of reaction and uncertainty to one of intention and clarity. Whether through self-reflection, discipline, embracing challenges, or learning continuously, he can develop into a person who is capable of achieving great things and living a life of meaning and fulfillment. In a world that thrives on external validation, it is easy to become dependent on the approval, recognition, and praise of others. Whether it's from family, friends, colleagues, or society at large, the desire to be seen, heard, and validated can be a powerful driving force. Many people chase after external markers of success, whether that's accolades, possessions, or admiration, in an attempt to feel worthy or validated. However, true strength comes from within. The Stoic philosophy teaches us that a man who depends on external validation is vulnerable, while a man who finds his strength in himself is unshakable. The problem with relying on external validation is that it is fleeting and unpredictable. External sources of affirmation can be inconsistent. One day, a person might receive praise and recognition, but the next day, they may be overlooked or criticized. This instability creates a constant cycle of seeking approval, where one's self-worth is constantly in flux. The Stoics recognized that basing your happiness and sense of self-worth on the opinions of others leaves you at the mercy of forces beyond your control. It is only by cultivating inner strength that a man can find true peace and stability, regardless of external circumstances. Inner strength is built upon the foundation of self-awareness and self-reliance. A man who has developed inner strength does not seek validation from others because he knows who he is, what he stands for, and what his values are. He understands that his worth is not determined by the approval of others, but by his ability to live in accordance with his principles. In this way, he is not swayed by compliments or criticisms. Instead, he remains steady, rooted in his own sense of purpose and integrity. This inner foundation allows him to navigate life with confidence and poise, regardless of the opinions or actions of those around him. Furthermore, inner strength allows a man to be authentic and true to himself. When a man is constantly seeking validation from others, he often adjusts his behavior or personality to fit what he believes others expect of him. This can lead to a life of inauthenticity, where a man is always performing for an audience, never truly being himself. In contrast, a man who cultivates inner strength is able to remain true to who he is, regardless of the expectations or judgments of others. He is not afraid to stand alone, to make decisions that align with his values, even if those decisions are unpopular or misunderstood. Building inner strength also involves developing emotional resilience. Life is filled with challenges, setbacks, and moments of disappointment. When a man relies on external validation, these challenges can feel like personal failures. His sense of self-worth becomes entangled with his achievements or the way others perceive him. However, a man who is anchored in his own strength is able to face these challenges with a calm and steady mind. He understands that setbacks do not define him, and that external validation is not the measure of his worth. Instead, he views difficulties as opportunities for growth and learning. By cultivating this emotional resilience, a man becomes less susceptible to the ups and downs of external approval, allowing him to maintain his peace and focus on what truly matters. Another key aspect of inner strength is the ability to take responsibility for one's own happiness and fulfillment. A man who relies on external validation often looks to others to make him feel good about himself. He might seek affirmation from a partner, friends, or social media followers, believing that their praise will fill the void within. However, this approach is ultimately unsustainable because it places the power to feel good about oneself in the hands of others. In contrast, a man who has developed inner strength understands that his happiness and fulfillment come from within. He takes responsibility for his own emotional well-being, knowing that he does not need the approval of others to feel valuable or worthy. This self-reliance frees him from the need to constantly seek external validation and allows him to create a life that is deeply satisfying on his own terms. Finally, inner strength is essential for long-term success and fulfillment. External validation may provide temporary satisfaction, but it is not a reliable source of long-term happiness. A man who seeks validation from others will always find himself chasing the next approval, never truly satisfied with what he has. In contrast, a man who draws strength from within is able to pursue his goals with focus and determination, regardless of the external rewards or recognition. His motivation comes from a deeper place, a desire to live in alignment with his values and to contribute meaningfully to the world. By cultivating inner strength, he can create a life that is fulfilling, authentic, and enduring, one that is not dependent on the shifting opinions of others but on his own sense of purpose and direction. In the end, the path to true strength lies in turning inward, in finding peace, confidence, and worth within oneself. By letting go of the need for external validation, a man can achieve a level of emotional freedom and self-sufficiency that allows him to live his life with greater clarity, purpose, and resilience. Self-reflection is a powerful tool that can transform a man's life. In a fast-paced world where distractions abound and the pressures of daily life often leave little room for introspection, it is easy to overlook the importance of taking time to examine one's thoughts, actions, and emotions. However, self-reflection provides a unique opportunity to connect with oneself, to understand deeper motivations, and to gain clarity on the direction of one's life. It is through this process that a man can cultivate wisdom, grow emotionally, and become more aligned with his true purpose. The act of self-reflection begins with a willingness to look inward, to assess not just the surface level of one's actions but the deeper layers of thought and intention that drive those actions. It is not about self-criticism or judgment but about cultivating awareness. When a man takes time to reflect on his behaviors, choices, and emotions, he begins to notice patterns that might otherwise go unnoticed. These patterns, whether positive or negative, shape the way he interacts with the world. Through self-reflection, he becomes conscious of these patterns and can begin to change those that do not align with his goals or values. One of the key benefits of self-reflection is that it allows a man to gain a deeper understanding of himself. Many people move through life without truly knowing who they are, what they stand for, or what drives them. They may operate on autopilot, reacting to external circumstances without fully considering their own inner responses. However, by reflecting on past experiences, decisions, and feelings, a man can uncover the underlying motivations that shape his behavior. This self-awareness is critical because it enables him to make conscious choices instead of unconsciously following patterns that may no longer serve him. The more a man understands himself, the more empowered he becomes to take intentional actions that align with his true desires and values. Self-reflection also fosters emotional intelligence, which is essential for navigating the complexities of life. When a man reflects on his emotional responses to situations, he gains insight into the sources of his emotions and learns how to regulate them more effectively. For example, if he feels anger in response to a specific event, reflection helps him understand why he feels that way, whether it's due to a personal belief, an unmet expectation, or a deeper insecurity. With this understanding, he can develop strategies to respond to situations more thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. This emotional clarity enables him to maintain composure during difficult situations and to make decisions that are grounded in rationality rather than emotional turmoil. Moreover, self-reflection is a tool for personal growth. A man who regularly reflects on his actions and experiences is more likely to identify areas for improvement and actively work to better himself. For instance, he might recognize that he consistently avoids challenging situations or that he tends to procrastinate. Through self-reflection, he can pinpoint the root causes of these habits, perhaps fear, lack of confidence, or laziness, and begin to address them. This awareness creates the opportunity for change. Personal growth, however, does not happen overnight. It is through consistent self-reflection and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths that a man can gradually reshape his behaviors, mindset, and habits over time. Self-reflection also helps a man to assess his life's purpose and goals. It is easy to get caught up in the daily grind and lose sight of what truly matters. Without reflection, it's possible to wake up years later and realize that you have been living according to someone else's expectations or have been chasing goals that are not truly aligned with your values. Self-reflection offers the opportunity to pause, step back, and reevaluate one's goals. It encourages a man to ask himself important questions. What do I truly want from life? What are my core values? Am I living in alignment with those values? By taking the time to answer these questions, a man can course-correct if necessary and ensure that he is living a life that is truly his own, one that brings fulfillment and purpose rather than simply following societal norms or expectations. Furthermore, self-reflection enables a man to develop a sense of accountability. When he reflects on his actions and the outcomes of those actions, he learns to take responsibility for both his successes and his failures. This accountability is essential for personal development because it eliminates the tendency to blame others or external circumstances for one's problems. Instead, a man who reflects regularly recognizes that he has the power to shape his destiny through the choices he makes. This mindset fosters a greater sense of control and empowers him to take proactive steps toward achieving his goals, rather than waiting for things to happen to him. Lastly, self-reflection creates space for gratitude and mindfulness. In the hustle and bustle of life, it's easy to focus on what's missing or what's going wrong. However, by taking time to reflect on what is going well, a man can cultivate a deeper sense of appreciation for his life and the people around him. Reflection allows him to acknowledge his accomplishments, his relationships, and the simple pleasures that often go unnoticed. This practice of gratitude can significantly improve overall well-being, reduce stress, and increase feelings of satisfaction and contentment. In essence, self-reflection is not just an introspective practice, it is a key to unlocking a deeper, more meaningful life. Through regular reflection, a man can better understand himself, improve his emotional intelligence, foster personal growth, align with his values, take responsibility for his actions, and cultivate gratitude. By making self-reflection a part of his daily routine, he can continually evolve into a wiser, more intentional, and fulfilled version of himself. Preparedness for healthy relationships is a vital aspect of leading a fulfilling and balanced life. Too often, individuals enter relationships with unrealistic expectations, unaddressed personal issues, or a lack of emotional maturity, which can lead to dysfunction and disappointment. In order to cultivate a meaningful and lasting relationship, a person must first be prepared, not only by developing self-awareness but also by cultivating the necessary emotional and mental resilience. Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, trust, communication, and emotional intelligence, and each of these elements requires individual readiness. The foundation of a healthy relationship begins with self-awareness. A person must understand who they are, what they value, and what they need from a relationship before they can truly connect with another. Self-awareness allows an individual to recognize their own strengths and weaknesses, which helps in building a relationship that is grounded in reality, rather than fantasy. When a person is clear about their goals, values, and boundaries, they are better equipped to communicate those needs to a partner. This self-knowledge ensures that they do not enter a relationship seeking to fix themselves through someone else, but rather as a whole person, ready to share and grow with another. Emotional readiness is another crucial aspect of being prepared for a healthy relationship. Emotional maturity means having the ability to manage one's emotions effectively and respond to the emotions of others with empathy and compassion. It is essential to recognize that emotions, both positive and negative, are an inevitable part of any relationship. However, how one handles these emotions determines the quality and longevity of the relationship. A person who is emotionally prepared understands the importance of not allowing anger, jealousy, or insecurity to dominate their interactions. Instead, they approach conflict with the intention of understanding their partner's point of view, listening actively, and finding a resolution that benefits both individuals. This emotional resilience enables a person to navigate challenges without resorting to destructive behaviors such as manipulation, avoidance, or resentment. Another vital component of relationship preparedness is effective communication. Healthy relationships are built on open and honest dialogue, where both partners feel heard, understood, and valued. It is not enough to simply talk, one must also listen with the intent to understand, not just to respond. Being able to communicate feelings, needs, and desires in a respectful and constructive manner is essential for a successful relationship. It involves being vulnerable, expressing oneself clearly, and ensuring that communication is not hindered by defensiveness, misinterpretation, or silence. A person who is prepared for a healthy relationship is willing to engage in these conversations, even when they are uncomfortable, and to work toward solutions rather than avoid or suppress issues. Trust is another cornerstone of any lasting relationship, and it requires a deep level of preparedness. Trust is not built overnight but is earned through consistency, transparency, and reliability. A person who is prepared for a healthy relationship understands the importance of building trust over time, demonstrating through their actions that they are dependable, honest, and supportive. Trust also involves being vulnerable and allowing one's partner to see both strengths and imperfections without fear of judgment. A prepared individual is willing to be open about their past, their flaws, and their fears, creating a safe space where mutual trust can develop. Furthermore, the ability to maintain healthy boundaries is crucial when preparing for a relationship. Boundaries are not about keeping others at arm's length but are about creating a safe and respectful space in which both individuals can thrive. A person who is prepared for a healthy relationship understands that they must communicate their own limits, as well as respect the limits of their partner. Boundaries ensure that both individuals can maintain their sense of identity, autonomy, and well-being within the relationship. They are a crucial aspect of maintaining balance and avoiding unhealthy patterns such as codependency or emotional manipulation. By being clear about one's own boundaries and being respectful of a partner's, a person can foster a relationship that supports both individual growth and shared connection. Finally, being prepared for a healthy relationship requires the willingness to grow and evolve together. No one is perfect, and no relationship is without its challenges. A prepared individual recognizes that growth is an ongoing process, both individually and as a couple. This willingness to adapt, learn, and grow creates a dynamic and resilient partnership. The ability to embrace change, to work through difficult moments, and to support each other's personal and shared goals strengthens the bond between two people. Healthy relationships are not static, they evolve as both partners grow and change, and preparedness for this journey requires a commitment to mutual development. Ultimately, preparedness for a healthy relationship involves being mentally and emotionally ready to invest time, energy, and love into a partnership. It requires self-awareness, emotional maturity, clear communication, trust, respect for boundaries, and a willingness to grow. A person who enters a relationship with these qualities is not seeking to fill a void or to find completion in another person but is instead looking to build a partnership that enhances both their life and the life of their partner. Relationships based on these principles are grounded in mutual respect, understanding, and shared growth, creating a solid foundation for love, trust, and fulfillment. In conclusion, the longer a man remains single, the more opportunities he has to cultivate the Stoic virtues that will not only elevate his own life but also prepare him for a healthier, more meaningful relationship when the time comes. The solitude of singlehood is not a period of loneliness or lack, rather, it is an opportunity to deepen self-awareness, strengthen inner resilience, and refine one's character. By embracing these moments of solitude, a man becomes more in tune with his own values, desires, and emotions, laying a solid foundation for any future connection. The Stoic path teaches that contentment does not come from external sources, but from within. A man who understands this truth is more likely to approach relationships not from a place of need or desperation, but from a place of strength, wisdom, and self-sufficiency. As he continues to evolve through self-reflection, emotional mastery, and the cultivation of inner peace, he grows into the kind of person who attracts not just any relationship, but the right one. Ultimately, the longer a man is single, the more he has the power to shape his own destiny, and in doing so, he becomes the best version of himself, ready to enter a relationship that enhances, rather than completes, his life.